So, Pokemon Worlds happened just recently, and while there were some pretty cool aspects of it, whenever I was watching it, several of the teams that I saw were actually quite creative, and I think overall the quality of teams there were a lot more diverse than what has been normally seen at regional tournaments this year. But it has also caused some problems, and as you can see from this article here at Game Rant, several of the players there were disqualified for using what is effectively genned Pokemon, which you use a generation service on like Discord or whatever to build out a Pokemon exactly how you want it to be, and then the bot trades it with you. And for a while, the Pokemon Company has had a difficult time actually picking these out, but more recently they have been catching and banning players at tournaments for using these. And as the article states, of course, that is controversial. And this isn't the only problem with the competitive scene of Pokemon, as in this article back in June, the Asian scene specifically has a lot of issues, including a very weird qualification system with terrible communication, and the list just goes on. But it's this continual and progressive mishandling of the competitive scene that has caused me to start losing interest in VGC as well as just the standard competitive ladder in general. So I started playing Pokemon in Gen 8. That was my first of the mainline Pokemon games. And I remember going into Gen 9 hoping that it would be easier to build competitive teams, only to find out that they ended up making it harder overall to build competitive teams because of how long it takes to get enough Terra Shards for things, and there's still the problem of getting a 0 IV attack or speed stat, which is optimal in certain scenarios. And that just takes a lot of time to do. And you combine that with Regulation D, where a lot of the meta Pokemon are not actually available in the base game. You have to get them from older games, or rely on the generosity of others to give you one. And chances are it's probably a genned mon that they're giving you, which it's impossible to tell in a trade online if you're getting a genned Pokemon or not. So if the Pokemon Company ever does crack down on genned Pokemon in the ranked ladder, it's basically going to be impossible to use the trading system, which is a core mechanic of Pokemon games, because if someone trades you a genned mon, you're just going to get, permabanned basically. And genned mon would not be a problem if it was actually convenient to make competitive teams, but it's not. What really bothers me is the Pokemon Company is not even consistent with their scarcity mechanics, because in Gen 9, it is easier to get a team of 6 shinies than it is to get a fully competitive team ready. Why is it like that? Why in the world is it easier to get every shiny imaginable than it is to get a couple of really good competitive teams built? That makes no sense to me. Which I know there's the argument that team building should take time and effort and you gotta plan it all out or whatever. And then you have YouTubers that get every shiny Pokemon in the game within like a month so that they're no longer even special. Like, there's such a drastic inconsistency here with the scarcity mechanics of Pokemon. It makes literally no sense. That with the mishandling of the competitive scene, particularly in Asia. I believe one of the people that got banned from Worlds, the hacked Pokemon that they got was one that they traded for without realizing that it was hacked. So again, just using the game as intended, they get banned because they had no idea that they were violating terms or whatever. It's issues like that, and I thought Gen 9 would kind of fix some of it. It's just compounding, and with it continuing to get worse, like, why in the world would anyone want to get into competitive Pokemon? There's these arbitrary scarcity mechanics that make it already difficult enough to build a competitive team. And then Regulation D rolls around, where there's stuff like Landorus and Ursaluna, really strong Pokemon, that the only way you're going to have access to these legitimately and ensure that you're not going to get one that's generated or hacked or whatever, you have to get one of the games that Pokemon is from. Which, for Ursaluna, you literally have to go buy Pokemon Legends Arceus to get an Ursaluna. And then good luck getting one that is 0 speed EVs to use it in your Trick Room team. It's almost like they are pushing these arbitrary limits to get more sales on their products, which is not how you run a competitive scene at all. And I've seen pretty poor handling of competitive scenes before, but Pokemon really is about the worst I've seen. And it's reasons like that that I think I am done with competitive Pokemon. Even the core games themselves without the competitive aspects are only just okay. They're really not that good, though I started from Gen 8. And I did enjoy it. I enjoyed Gen 9 as well, going through it. I think some of the bosses were a lot of fun. But the longevity of Pokemon, for me, comes from the competitive scene. And seeing it just slowly turning into a dumpster fire, I just don't want to be a part of that anymore. So this is my last video talking about Pokemon in general, until further notice. I will still keep the channel around. I will be changing up the content. The schedule may be all over the place while I think of new, more creative ideas. But Gen 9 was the Pokemon Company's chance to impress me, and they took some steps forward, but more steps backwards than I would have liked. And I think it's become quite clear that the Pokemon Company really has no idea how to run a competitive scene properly, and they make no effort to listen to community feedback. And that's gonna be it. If your only reason for staying with the channel was for competitive Pokemon content, you have no obligation to stay. But for everyone that did show up, I thank you for all of your comments and likes watching my content. Hopefully you got some entertainment or information out of it that was helpful to you. And I do plan to continue making helpful or informative content in the future, but it will not be focused on Pokemon at all. So I thank all of you for making the channel what it was, even though it was small. And also thank you for watching this. Take care, everyone.